Everyone, and welcome to the general body meeting of Community Board 2 for March. I want to thank everyone for participating. I'm sure that the others will be joining shortly. Just to set out some protocol for the meeting, a question and answer period is generally reserved for Community Board 2 members. So when it's time for me to ask a question for members, that is strictly meant for Community Board 2 members. If you're not a Community Board 2 member, we have a question for you on the agenda later on where you get a chance to express questions and provide commentary on certain issues that may be of concern in your neighborhood. Additionally, when it's time to vote, we try to take full advantage of this virtual format so that I ask all of my colleagues to vote virtually. It makes life easier for myself and the treasurer and the secretary, to count the votes and make sure that we have a full quorum of voting participants. And therefore, once again, if you are not a member of Community Board 2, I ask you not to engage in virtual voting. And then last but not least, we encourage everyone to use the chat as a form of communication that is not limited to board members. If there are community members who want to put something in the chat, you are more than welcome to do so. The only requirement we have is that it's respectful and that it's fact-based. Anything that of an opinion that cannot be validated, I'd ask that you hold that into an open period where you can converse and share those feelings, but please do not put them in the chat. The problem with putting your opinion in the chat is that someone who may not be familiar with the topic can't determine fact from passion. So with that, I welcome everyone to Community Board 2. This meeting is now being recorded. However, before we get into the agenda, if there are any members of the community, non-Community Board 2 members, who have an item that may not necessarily be covered on the agenda that you want to bring to our attention now, please do so, and we can modify the agenda to address that particular topic. Seeing no reactions, we will continue with the agenda. Can I entertain a motion to accept tonight's agenda? Ms. Zalagrino, second, Mr. Gordon. No need for any further discussion. The agenda is adopted. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes of February 2022? Are there any noted comments or corrections? In the event that you have comments, please send them to the board office and we will make the appropriate corrections. I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda for, the minutes from February 2022. Let me say, Mr. Gordon, can I get a second? Ms. Zalagrino? Thank you. First item on the agenda tonight is the chairperson's report. Again, I don't necessarily have a report today of any formal actions, but what I will tell you is that last month, Taya and I, along with representatives from the mayor's community assistance unit, did a walkthrough along with a representative from the Myrtle Avenue bid, did a walkthrough underneath the BQE. And our walkthrough didn't necessarily deal with the traffic issues nor the construction, anticipated construction of the BQE, but it was really to look at the landscape and what I would say is the neglect underneath the BQE. And so we put a real focus on having the mayor's unit join us to help with a cleanup effort. I'm sure you've seen the news where other grassroots organizations have done so and deal with, cleaning up the park, but cleaning up the area underneath the BQE. But we went with a targeted focus to make sure that we pointed out certain areas to them, certain issues with drainage, where there seems to be a pileup of residue and debris that's now causing flooding in certain aspects underneath the BQE. Additionally, we addressed the alternate side of the street parking regulations. At a period when the BQE was being painted, there were some minor repairs, and there was additional lighting added to the corridor between Clausen Avenue to Ashland. There were street regulations that had no parking at certain periods overnight, particularly early in the morning. Those were the ideal times when the work was being done. Well, now those signs are still up. And what's happening to residents of the community who use that as a form of parking or form of temporary parking, they're being ticketed because they're not moving their car between, I think the street sign that says between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. So if you imagine if you live anywhere in the Nydia developments, or you live anywhere along that corridor, and you park your car, you don't have to set your alarm at 2:30 in the morning, maybe even try to get as much sleep, 2:55. So then run outside and move your car to keep from getting a ticket. However, there is no form of alternate side of the street cleaning that's taking place. There are no street sweepers that are going through there. There's no way that there's any type of city assisted services being provided, which is normally the case when you go through that area. Proud to say, happy to say that the mayor's office and the representatives immediately saw that issue. They're looking and working to find a resolution to that. And so there's more to come on the walkthrough and the results of that project underneath the BQE. And again, this is not above the BQE. This is not the BQE. This is underneath, and trying to bring a little bit more equity to that parking situation, but also the impact that it has on the neighboring small businesses, whether they be on the Myrtle Avenue corridor, Park or Flushing. You know, there's a benefit there as well. So I was happy to have the mayor's office be a good partner with us in that effort. And I'm hoping that we can get a resolution soon. And I know Taya has been engaging with those representatives. So that's a good story to tell there. Lastly, I had the pleasure of going to Albany with the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce. And we went to engage in what the Chamber calls Brooklyn Night. It was actually a good event. But one of the things that I had an opportunity to do is engage with the New York State representatives from the Department of Transportation. And I asked for an update of where they stand with a plan for the BQE. And what was communicated to me is that they are working with the city. They're trying to make sure that the plan fits in with what some of the federal guidelines and regulations are. And they're serving more as a liaison to help with a plan. And so they anticipate a plan coming out from the state, or I should say a revised plan with additional input from the state. Maybe that's a better way to phrase it. Sometime in the spring, and that we would hopefully have another alternative to consider in the many alternatives that have been presented on what a solution for the BQE would look like. I don't know any more about the plan to know if it's better, worse, or the same. But the fact that there is some attention from the representatives in Albany, I think is needed and welcome, because this project is so complex and so massive that as many parties that can be involved in the solution can only mean for a better outcome. So with that concludes what I want to share with you all as partners in civic engagement from my various projects and trips to Albany and through the BQE. So that concludes my chairperson's report. We'll pivot now to agenda item number 5. And I'm going to look to see if we have any elected officials who have joined us directly. If not, we'll call on their representatives to have them give updates. And if I'm looking through now, I don't see anyone. So Taya, if anyone pops up, just highlight it for me in the chat. But right now, I'm going to start with, how about I'm going to start with the Borough President's office. I'm going to start with Daniel Abramson, who's representing the Brooklyn Borough President.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Awesome, thanks. I don't have many big announcements this month, other than to say that we're in the middle of reviewing the many wonderful people who applied to Community Board 2. You should know we received over 80 applications for CB2. I will check and have this for you by next time, but it may be the most we received for any board. I was just talking to someone and I think they received like 20 for CB7. So you should be proud that you're on the board. It's a very popular and vibrant board, and a lot of wonderful candidates applied. And also I want to say thank you as well to all the many public members and people who come even if they're not appointed to CB2. It's just great to have such a wonderful bench. So we should have those interviews done by the 14th. And then I believe it will take several weeks for us to finalize the decisions. But we look forward to appointing and reappointing people to CB2 and all the community boards. So thank you.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate the update. And I say this with all humility, but we should not be surprised that everyone wants to be with the best. So thank you for that update.
I should add that one of the applicants, I asked them to watch the community board meetings, to familiarize themselves. And after the interview, they wrote me back and said they had watched the meeting and that your chairperson was like excellent and in command and really impressive. So you guys have an impressive board and an impressive chairperson, apparently.
I'm glad you highlighted that. I told my little cousin to do that for her third grade project, so I'm glad she was able to get that through. I appreciate that. Hopefully you ignored the typos, but thank you. I appreciate those kind words. We're going to move on now before I get myself in trouble and call on Allison to represent Assemblywoman Joanne Simon.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. I'm Allison. Happy International Women's Day and happy Women's History Month. The Assembly member is up in Albany right now. The budget hearings wrapped up last week. The state budget is due April 1st. So things up there are going to be really heating up over the next couple of weeks. Some things that I have to share with you all. As Chairperson mentioned, DOT released updated versions of the BQE triple cantilever plans earlier this month. Assemblymember Simon is happy to see that they have incorporated some updates based on community feedback, and she still remains committed to, pushing to make sure that there's 2 lanes instead of 3 to address the urgent climate needs we have. And she's also committed to still working very closely with all of her elected official colleagues along the corridor. Additionally, it is tax season. So I'm going to put a link in the chat for some tax benefits and rebates for homeowners that not everyone may be aware of. And then also we wanted to highlight that there is an affordable housing lottery right now at 200 Montague Street. I can also drop that link in the chat. And preference is given for Community 2 board members. So we wanted you to all have that information, and I'll put all of that in the chat along with my contact information if you have any more questions about anything. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Next, I'm going to call on, I thought I just saw Justin from Assemblywoman Forrest's office. Justin, are you still on?
Yes, I'm on.
Oh, there you go. Perfect.
Sorry.
No
How's
problem.
everyone doing? Hope you're all having a good evening and had a great work day. My name is Justin Freeman. I'm Phara's Assembly Member, Phara Souffrant, Forrest Director of Community Affairs. Echoing Allison, happy International Women's Day and Women's Month. Phara is also up in Albany, working on legislation that impacts working class folks, like getting good cause passed, which will expand rent stabilization, and also treatment, not jail, which will keep our jails from being at the capacity that they are, and give people the mental health treatment that they need. It costs upwards of $500,000 a year to keep someone incarcerated. And when you think about all of the debt that, let's say, for example, Nydia is in, right? In our district, there's $17 million in arrears that Nydia residents are in. And so that's what, 34 people's, incarcerated people's worth of arrears, right? If we can, reallocate those funds, that would be, in a dream world, that would be great. We did do a visit yesterday, actually, at Brooklyn Community Services Farragut, at Nydia Farragut. And we met with some of the kids there while they were learning, they were doing different workshops, and it was really, really good to see. And they gave us some repair requests, and we're going to be working on that through Nydia with them. As far as we our office can help out with a few different things, multiple different things, unemployment, public benefits. If you have any housing issues, we can help out with that. So, you know, we're having a phone bank this Sunday, March 12th at 6 p.m., where we'll be reaching out to people, seeing if they need anything, help with anything, talking to them about a good cause and other legislation that Phara is looking to pass. I'll share that link in the chat. It's bit.ly/Phara outreach. Also in that link, you can sign up for a canvas that we're having next Saturday, March 18th at 1 p.m., which will be good cause focused. So we'll be canvassing, you know, it'll be outside of, you know, CB2, but if you want to, you know, connect with people, you know, in Crown Heights where we'll be canvassing, that would be great too. Office also is starting a housing law clinic. Every third Thursday of the month, we'll have someone from Mobilization for Justice, Brian Sullivan. He'll be taking up one of the rooms in our office space to meet with people about their particular housing issue. That doesn't mean that we don't help out with housing issues throughout the rest of the month, but this is specifically for that day. Our office is always looking for volunteers to help out for canvassing, for comms, and all different kinds of things. We're looking for interns as well. You can sign up via that link. Also, if you're interested in our newsletter, we send out one every 2 weeks. You can email me. I'll put my information in the chat. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and I hope you have a great rest of the week. If you have any questions, just let me know.
Thank you, Justin. Appreciate that comprehensive update. Thank you for the information you put in the chat. I also want to thank Allison for also doing the same. We appreciate it. Next, I'm going to call on J.Watkins, representing Kings County District Attorney Eric Gonzalez.
Good evening, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Yes, just starting off, as I always ask people to do, is to go to our website and to check out the press releases that come out regarding a lot of the work that the DA, along with his ADAs, are doing each and every day. And one thing I want to cite is just recently that was posted was the conviction for criminal homicide of the death of a construction worker. Now, this occurred in 2018. So this just illustrates that things that occur in our community may take many, many months and sometimes many years. But at the end of the day, the DA and his associates, along with other law enforcement, are working very diligently to bring these crimes to justice. That's just one item. So there are many more on our website at brooklynda.org. And you go on the drop-down link for press releases and news items, you'll find that there. Also, following up more recently, there was an incident in the Sunset Park involving U-Haul, which really terrorized that community. Again, even after the incident a year ago at the 39th Street subway, where a person was running people literally down off the sidewalk and down the street in that community. And so the DA wanted to note the heroic efforts of 3 NYPD officers that helped to bring that situation under control and really to save the lives of children that were in the area of that incident. And so please know that that is being continued to be followed up and prosecuted justly. Following up on that, last month there was the New York Legislative Review that the DA hosted, bringing together many state legislatures throughout the state and the city, and this to have a comprehensive review of a lot of the workings that are going on in the DA's office that oftentimes even the legislators aren't aware of, and to show them how the DA's office is working on all of the things from domestic violence to gun control and so forth. So the DA works very hard and diligently with all of the legislators in the state and sometimes even in other states as well. So that's part of his agenda that he carries on each and every day. The next thing is that the DA is hosting some events coming up that we want to make sure the community knows about. Last month, we had Black History Month celebration, and this month, as Women's History, will be celebrated as well, and we'll be having an event on that. Information on that will be posted very shortly. And finally, the DA celebrates with our Jewish citizens the Purim holiday. And so he's always very cognizant of things that are going on throughout the community and all of our cultural communities. Thank you so much and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, John. Appreciate the update. Next, I'm going to call on Andrew Wright. Andrew, are you on?
Thank you, Chair. First off, if I cut out, let me know. My internet's not been great today. So I just have a few quick things to announce. So first, our next AMUP community meeting is going to be this Sunday, once again at PS9. During this session, we'll have a walking tour of the area. We'll have some brief remarks from folks and then an open house with different agencies. And the goal of this session is going to be to start narrowing down on specific recommendations for that corridor, which as I'll know, but are and 2 is Crystal State of the District is going to be Tuesday, March 21st at Medgar Evers College. I'll put a link in the chat for where y'all can sign up and reserve a spot. We're going to have a bunch of great performances, a good speech by the council member, and we hope to see some other elected officials there as well. And then lastly, participatory budgeting. So that season is underway and vote week starts on the 25th. So I'll put a link once again where to find information on the polling sites we're going to have, which include many. So I'll kick it to the chair.
Andrew, thank you. Next, I'm going to call on Betsy, representing Representative Goldman.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chair. So a couple of things to announce this month. This month is the kickoff for the annual Congressional Art Competition. The winning piece from each district gets to hang in the Capitol complex for a year, and the winning student gets to come to DC to meet the member and see their artwork, hang up, and have a meal and an event with all the other winners. It's going to start around March 15th. You'll see it launch on our website and run until May 1st. And it's for any high schoolers who live or go to school in District 10. And then also it is community project funding time. This used to be called earmarks. If there is, you have a nonprofit group or even city groups can be involved that might be interested in this. We are having a event, a Zoom. This literally just came out. I'm reading this from a different email I just got. New York 10 information session for community project funding FY24 process. It's going to be on Friday from 3 to 4. I'll put the Zoom registration in the chat. And that is for it allows members of Congress to request direct funding for projects that benefit their communities. So a lot of districts, you know, you have all sorts of different things that you can request, and we'll go over that at that event. And then last few things, just want to mention 2 things that the representative has introduced this month. One is the Big Oil Windfall Profits Tax Act. That would do a lot of things, but mostly stop oil companies from making huge profits and help give that back to the American people. And then also he introduced the African Burial Ground Museum and Educational Center Act with Congressman Nadler. And this would establish a museum and education center at the African Burial Ground in Lower Manhattan, a site that currently holds the remains of an estimated 15,000 free and enslaved Africans and early generation African Americans. And this would be a place people could come and learn about that instead of it just being something that New York has, but we don't, know how to, we're not educating people about this historical monument. And finally, we've also introduced an act that would allow asylum seekers, instead of having to wait 180 days to apply for a work permit, they could apply after 30 days. This would really help people who are coming into our community be able to join that community workforce much quicker. So that's something else we will be following up on. Yeah, I'll put everything in the chat as well, but feel free to reach out to us if you have any issues.
Thank you. Last but not least, we're going to call on our good friend Samantha Johnson to represent Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez.
Good afternoon, everyone. Happy International Women's Day, and also just happy everything. It's a happy Wednesday. So just wanted to kind of piggyback on one of my colleagues were talking about. Most recently, the Congresswoman just passed, just announced the Landlord Accountability Act for 2023, which was introduced to try to hold more landlords accountable. And these are for people who are trying to discriminate against people who have housing vouchers, mainly Section 8, and also just to protect those people with those rights from shady landlords. There's also a penalty if those landlords are not behaving properly, but also there is a tax credit for those who are trying to get their buildings up to code and make repairs as necessary to make sure that individuals in multifamily housing are given access to apartments. So that has just been released, and we're actually looking for support for any nonprofit that is inside of this, bubble of Zoom. But if you are interested in getting more details and getting a full one-pager, I'm happy to send that over to you. I don't want to go back into the BQE debate, but I do want to say that there are some upcoming events. If you are interested in going to those listening sessions, I highly recommend. I was in attendance as well to try to give you feedback about the plans that DOT is trying to do, as well as where we should be trying to lead DOT in those conversations. And our elected officials have already signed on to a letter, as Joanne Simon's representative mentioned, to keep it as a 2-lane outside of the 3-lane. So I highly recommend that. On the 23rd, we had a hybrid meeting with the Army Corps, and it had studied. This might be outside of our area, but Greenpoint and Newtown Creek is going through a proposal about what that wall is, what people are saying of being built. And so we're having public comments that was supposed to be on the 7th, but due to a lot of aggressive feedback, we made sure that we sent the letter over to the representatives of the Congress, and so that we're getting the extension for that public feedback to the 31st. So if anybody is interested this month to give feedback on that, or if you're just interested in hear more about it, feel free to put your public comment in. I'll send the link in that as well. 2 more things. We just recently saw that there's a big influx of ion batteries and fires in our neighborhood. So we are trying to get more information about what is the representatives in the Trade Commission are trying to do to try to stop those illegal batteries from coming into our neighborhood. So on the 24th, if y'all know, in Bush, there was an explosion of 50 batteries, and there was 2 young people that actually were in critical condition. Actually, one was in critical condition, and the other one was injured. And that has been the 24th fire in the past 3 months, I believe, in New York. So we are trying to get some more information regarding procedures to determine what the safety of these batteries are to protect our particular drivers with the e-bikes, but also the communities in which they serve. So that's something that we're working on as well. And last but not least, we are definitely talking about community funding projects. The Republicans are doing what they do best, which is cutting money. So we're trying to get as many really great requests in. Our office is only really allowed 15 projects. So we really want everyone to email us, to contact us, to get some appropriation suggestions in. We want everyone to be able to understand what appropriations and earmarks are about. There's an email that we're specifically allocating for individuals to email us, or they can just call the office, which is 718-599-3658, to get more information about that. And I also will put the link for our email and also submissions on the chat. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'll put my information in the chat as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And I think I see Clay. Clay, did you join from Senator Gounardes' office?
Oh, thank you, Chair. Yes, unfortunately, I'm arriving. Oh, and I'm having camera difficulties. Unfortunately, I arrived a little late. Not much to report on our end. Hasn't already been covered from what I've heard, except that we will be holding walk-in constituent services at the Brooklyn Heights branch of the Brooklyn Public Library. That's 286 Cadman Plaza. I'll be there myself every other Wednesday So meaning the next one will be on March 15th from 2 to 5. Following that will be March 29th. Excuse me, March 1st and 15th, and then in April 12th and 26th, May 10th and 24th, June 7th and 21st. I'll share that flyer with the community board so it can be added to the district notices folder. Please feel free to stop by from 2 to 5 if you need assistance with the city or state agency. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we're going to move on to our next item for city agencies and community partners. First, I'm going to call on the library. So we have representatives from the Brooklyn Public Library.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I am Alex Muyos. I'm the manager at the Walt Whitman Library. That's just to the north of Fort Greene Park. We have a few things on our agenda. I will be saying the first thing. Where is it? We have our teen writing, which is coming up, teen writing contest. New York City writers in grades 6 through 12 are invited to submit poetry and prose in our teen writing contest. There are cash prizes, $500 for the first place, and a total of $3,000 will be awarded in all the prizes. The teens can stop into any branch that has writing kits while supplies last. They will come with a little pad, a pen, and a little zine of writing prompts to help them with their inspiration. I'll put a link in the chat in a moment. And also we are working with Fort Greene Park on the 1st of April for their poetry day. Poetry in the park. There'll be an open mic. I don't know if anyone's here from the park. I'm sure there is, but I'll put their link for their event in the chat as well. And if there are any teens that do enter the writing contest and wish to do open mic to share their work, please join us in the park.
So now you're passing the mic to who?
I am passing the mic to Tracy. Kat, right?
It's okay, I can go. I'm Tracy, I'm from the Clinton Hill Library. Brooklyn Public Library is going to be celebrating 50 years of hip hop with our fellow library systems and over 30 cultural institutions. More announcements will be following the spring, but we'll be having a year-long program series across Brooklyn. Clinton Hill expects to be doing a program for kids, and hopefully I'll be able to give you more information about that next month. This coming Friday, the 10th, we're having job help with Brooklyn Workforce Innovations from 2 to 3. We have just started mat Pilates with Shape Up New York on Saturdays at 10:30 a.m. We will supply a mat if you don't have a Pilates mat. And this coming Saturday, the 11th, we have 2 programs with Big Reuse. From 11 to 1, we have a street tree cleanup. From 1 to 4, they are doing a compost give back and education table, bring containers. And also this Thursday, the 14th, Big Reuse is going to do a vermicompost bin worm shop for all ages. You can learn about worms and worm bins. And then finally on Thursday, the 16th, we are doing a fired glass spring glass jewelry creation for adults. And now I'm going to turn it over to Kat.
Kat, are you on?
She may be having technical difficulties.
All right, no problem.
Yeah.
The
How
library.
about Rachel?
I see Kat, but I think she's just having some audio issues.
Yeah.
So why don't we pivot to April? Maybe Kat can log out, log back in, and then that may help her give her update. Does that work?
Yeah, I think that should work.
All right, Rachel. All right, does Rachel having audio problems as well?
How about now for me?
There you go. Now we hear you. Good job.
All right. I was trying to be fancy with these lovely new headphones. Good evening, everyone. Thank you. Kat here from the Adams Street Library. Happy to see everyone this evening. And I'm here to share a couple things. The system-wide thing I wanted to share is actually about Brooklyn Public Library's Senior Debates. This is a really cool program for older adults who are looking to flex their debating skills. And they can join a senior debate team. This is a hybrid program with the first sessions occurring on Zoom. There will also be in-person options, and these all lead up to the senior debate tournament at the Central Library. The program runs for 3 months on Tuesdays from 2 to 4. All the participants will receive a copy of a book, On the Other Hand, written by the founder of the Association for Senior Debate. I'll pop a link in the chat. And then I just want to give a little shout out for a couple fun things that we're doing down by the water in Dumbo at the Adams Street Library. We've created an Ask a Librarian program every Wednesday at 2. So if you have questions about a research project, navigating anything on our website, databases, resume help, tech help, anything like that, is a sort of an all-in-one program with our fantastic librarians. That's Wednesdays. I'm also really excited. We have some amazing teen interns, and 2 of them are actually going to run their own programs on Monday and Friday afternoons. It's a Ready, Set kindergarten program. We're keeping the class size small, but this is for 3 to 5-year-olds. It's a really wonderful program, and we're really proud of our teen interns. And then lastly, on Saturday, March 25th, we have a poetry reading by James Davis May. We're really happy to be able to support authors and poets. And that is it for me. I'm going to toss it over to Rachel of Brooklyn Heights.
Unless something's changed, I don't see that Rachel's on.
Okay, well then,
so
Brooklyn Heights is awesome. Everyone go to Brooklyn Heights Library. Talk to Senator Gounardes. All right, bye.
For the representatives from the library, appreciate your continued support. So next I'm going to call on the Red Cross.
Good evening, Chairperson Singletary, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Richard Morrow, and I'm the Greater New York Red Cross Community Relations Ambassador for Community Board 2. In honor of International Women's Day, I put together a special report I thought was really important. U.S. teenage girls are in a mental health crisis. A newly published report entitled Youth Risk Behavior Survey, conducted by the CDC in 2021, revealed that U.S. teenagers overall are in a state of desperation, with increases in debilitating sadness, violence, and suicidal tendencies. Shockingly, the report found that adolescent girls are experiencing higher rates of depression and hopelessness. A staggering 57%, 11,970,000 of these girls report depression symptoms. Teenage girls are more likely to drink alcohol and use opiates along with other recreational drugs. And 25%, 5,250,000 reported having seriously considered ending their lives. The rate of suicidal thoughts among girls has ballooned by 60% over the past decade. Most disturbingly, teenage girls are reporting dramatic increases in the rate of violence they are experiencing. 20%, 4,200,000 said that they had experienced sexual violence within the past year, up by 20% since 2017. And 14%, 2,940,000 teenage girls reported having been raped, a figure that has increased by a horrifying 27% since the survey was last conducted in 2019. This is an emotional catastrophe. An African proverb states, "It takes a village to raise a child." Major shifts are essential to address this problem. A holistic approach was proposed by the World Health Organization, which produced a major report entitled Social Determinants of Health, in which they considered non-medical determinants of health, such as the conditions in which we are born, live, work, and play. The report had 3 critical recommendations. 1, improve daily living conditions. 2, tackle the inequitable distribution of power, money, and resources. And 3, measure and understand the problem and assess the impact of action. The mental health crisis amongst our teenage girls is an emergency, one that is worsening. Their suffering will not abate until we, American adults, make a world that is more worthy of them and give them lives of equality, safety, prosperity, and hopefulness. Frederick Douglass wrote, "We do not build strong children, but instead we try to repair the broken men and women our neglected children become." We at the Red Cross extend our deepest appreciation for the efforts Community Board 2 makes, bringing together government and its citizens.
Richard, that's it?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I wasn't sure, thanks. Moving on to next agency. I see a representative from Department of Sanitation. So if you'd like to speak, the floor is yours. If you just want to say hi, that's fine too.
No, I actually, I do have a quick announcement about our new set out times. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I am going to drop a quick link in the chat so that you have access to the information online. Many of you may have received an email already, but essentially as a part of our ongoing commitment at the Department of Sanitation to keep our streets clean, we are changing the rules for setting out your waste and recycling. So the new rule is going into effect as of April 1st. And basically to summarize, for residents, residential buildings or residential homeowners, your garbage or recycling has to be placed out after 6 p.m. if it is in a container with a lid, 55 gallons or less. Thank you, Tanya. Or you place it out after 8 p.m. if you're putting it directly onto the street in a bag. We want to make sure that you receive collection service. So all waste should be put out before midnight. So that is going to be either between 6 p.m. if it's in a container, or after 8 p.m. if it is in a black bag. For businesses, this also does apply to businesses as well. And for businesses, we ask that if you're putting your garbage out in a container, it's 1 hour before closing. Also, we're asking that it has a secure lid. If bags are being put directly on the curb, same as residential waste, will be placed out after 8 p.m. Now, if if commercial establishments have their waste collected from a loading dock, this does not apply to them. However, if they're placing it curbside, just like residents do, then they would have to follow these new laws. We do have information sessions just to kind of break this down a little bit further and maybe answer questions that people may have. So I can put an email address in the chat if people have not received the information session information, but it's for civic groups, community organizations. If you have a representative who maybe wants to gather the information and share it, happy to have you guys join one of our information sessions. There are different times of the day, both in the daytime and at nighttime throughout the remainder of March. So I will add that to the chat. But yes, those are our new times.
Thank you so much for your update. We greatly appreciate it. And next I'm going to call on Ellen from the Brooklyn Academy of Music. Dan.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I just wanted to quickly highlight our new season of senior programming. We're continuing our senior cinema series, which runs year-round. It's the third Friday of every month, free movie screening. But now that it's spring, we've started up our senior social events, which are music oriented, or we also have brush and brunch parties, which are like the paint parties where you come and follow along with an instructor. There's music, lunch. They're really fun events. Our next senior cinema is a week from this Friday, March 17th. The film is about Angela Davis. And then our next senior cinema is going to be March 30th. It's our jazz brunch, and that is located at the Fisher Building on Ashland Place. If anyone's interested, please reach out to me. We do accept RSVPs in advance, and we always have really great turnout. So RSVPing is definitely highly recommended. We hit capacity on these events. Our first senior social of the season, our first brush and brunch rather, we hit full capacity at 65 people. We had to like find supplies for around the building. So they're always really great events. We're always looking to invite more people into our doors and, you know, have this great programming for our elders. So thanks and take care.
Thank you. All right, so we're gonna move now to the next item on our agenda, committees for action. We have 3 committees this evening. We have Health, Environment, and Social Services, Land Use, and Transportation and Public Safety. We'll start with Health, Environment, and Social Service.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Singletary. And my name is Brandon Smith. I'm Chair of Health, Environment, and Social Services Committee. I'm honored to have Nicole McKnight as my co-chair and Jessica Thurston as our secretary. We had a nice meeting back at the beginning of the month on March 1st, where we heard 3 new liquor licenses, which are the items for action at tonight's meeting. To cut to the chase, there was no public opposition for all 3 liquor licenses, and all 3 liquor licenses were approved with no opposition. I will go through each of them. The first is 11 Hoyt Golf Zone Social. This location is going to be an underground golf space that has food and beverage. It'll be open from 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. Monday through Saturday and 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. on Sunday. There's no outdoor space, and the entire operation is within the basement of the level and includes 16-inch concrete walls. The board received letters of support from the president of the building, which is 11 Hoyt, and the managing partner of the building. There was some discussion at the committee about private events because they noted they would have private events there. They indicated these would be corporate buyouts and kid birthday parties, and they have an entrance on the street level, which leads to an elevator that opens directly down into the bottom level. They indicated that there wouldn't be any lines or groupings of people out in the street, and the location was identified to be ADA compliant. We had a brief discussion at the committee, and the motion was approved by a margin of 8-0-0. The second location is entitled Wonder Beach. It's located at 117 Adams. This is a tanning salon that's located in the Etsy building. There are 2 employees. The nature of the application was phrased as as a location without any proximity to residents. Specifically, there are no residents above, below, on either side, or behind this premises. The location is going to be open from 9:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. on a Monday through Friday basis, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. on Saturday, and 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. on Sunday. There is going to be outdoor seating in front. They indicated it would be 6 tables close to the building on the sidewalk, and the board office indicated that there have been no letters of complaint or support provided for this application. Again, it was approved 8-0-0. Finally, 479 Atlantic Avenue, Jack's Place was presented. This is on the north side of Atlantic Avenue. This would be the side with State Street behind it. this is going to be a bar with occasional live acoustic and amplified music indoors and background music indoors and actually outdoors too in the backyard area. There will be no sidewalk seating for this location. They're going to have opportunities for private events at the location. There were no letters of complaint or support that were provided. There were several form letters from nearby residents in Atlantic Avenue indicating support for the location from residences within a couple blocks. And we had most of our discussion of the committee about the backyard area and specifically identified that there had not been any outreach done to the folks on State Street who are behind this location. And after a significant committee discussion where we considered not having any outdoor hours, we ultimately agreed that while their hours indoors could be 8 a.m. to 2 a.m., which is consistent with at least one nearby bar in the street, the Hollow Nickel, the outdoor hours would be closing at 7 p.m. on Sunday through Thursday and 8 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. The establishment confirmed that that was feasible, and with that condition, the motion was approved 7-0-1. The one person who abstained happened to know one of the applicants, so didn't feel comfortable voting. Those are the three applications that we heard from. Happy to take it from here.
So I'll entertain a motion to accept all three of the applications presented as one vote unless there's an objection.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Mr. Gordon. Any discussion on the motion?
The restaurants.
Barbara?
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I'm just wondering, Brandon, a tanning salon having, I assume they have food along with the liquor license. It just doesn't seem, it's a little strange. I was wondering if you could provide some information.
Sure, the concept of food wasn't specifically discussed at the committee, so I can't provide any additional information on that. I have effectively presented the information I have about this location.
Thank you.
Mr. Flournoy?
Thank you, Chair Singletary. Brandon, as you know, I have an issue with outdoor situations, especially for the residents in the area. Will they do outreach, Jack's Place, to the residents in the back, or since they haven't done any outreach prior to the actual meeting?
Sorry, is your question, will they do outreach to the residents in the back?
Yes.
So we discussed this at the committee level, and the applicants, I believe, are not opposed to reaching out to the folks in the back and indicated that they would do this. However, it was not made a condition of the motion.
Understood. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please do so by clicking on the actions at the bottom, and please raise your hand. Okay, can I ask that you lower your hand, please? Right. Anyone opposed, please raise your hand. Anyone abstaining, would you please raise your hand? The motion carries. Thank you. Next committee to present this evening is land use.
Thank you, Chair Lenny. Okay, thank work of our co-chair, Daughtry Kustoffen, and our secretary, Karen Johnson, hard work that they do to keep all our information going and to keep the work going on this, with the work that we have to do here at Landmarks Land Use Committee. Back in February, we discussed these two buildings that you have before you. The first one is 140 State Street, which is in the Brooklyn Heights Historic District. Now, the application, there was a previous application that came to us back in October for replacement of windows. They wanted to put up some new windows, new replacement windows. And we were very concerned because, especially with the appearance, it had a light color, especially on the mullions, as they call it. And we felt at that time that we had voted 6-4-1 against it back in October. So now they came to us for, I guess, you might say, a second bite of the apple. It's a new application. This time they're looking at a darker color, especially for the new replacement windows, facing on State Street. And we looked at it, we liked it, and we voted for it 10-0-0. The color is a nicer, darker, which we felt would fit in with the, with the district and with the historic district and the buildings that are there. Second one that we received and we did approve was 216 Wyckoff Street in the Borough Hill Historic District. Now, this one is the result of an unfortunate incident. This is a replacement for the front entrance door. The original front entrance door was smashed as a result of a robbery, burglary. They came and smashed it and did their damage. The owner put in a new front door, replacement front door. It looks something like the original front door, although it's a concern because it was a couple of inches shorter than the original. And it was some concern about whether or not, because it's shorter, would fit in with the framework of what's at the front entrance. But we looked at it and we decided 9-1-0 to approve the new replacement door. We felt that the new replacement door will fit in. It fits in with the historic district and the look of the community. And we felt that this should also be approved. So we ask for your approval for 140 State Street in Brooklyn Heights and 216 Wyckoff Street in Borough Hill.
Right. So unless there's an objection, I'm going to make a motion to approve these two items all as one. So I'll entertain a motion. Ms. Soligrainer, a second. Ms. Williams, any discussion on the motion? Lindsay? Oh, I'm sorry. Were those people who raised their hands, were you seconding and motioning the item?
I was, yeah.
Yes, oh, fantastic. All right, great. All right, good. Okay. So any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, would you now raise your hand in support of the motion? Please lower your hand. Okay, is there anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? The motion carries. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Ryan, you abstaining? Okay, one abstention. The motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for your support.
The next item on the agenda, Mr. Ryan, I need you to take your hand down when you get a chance. The next item on the agenda is transportation and public safety.
Good evening, everyone. I apologize. I don't know why my camera isn't working, but you'll have to do without seeing my smiling face.
I'm sure we'll get over it. Go ahead.
So my co-chair is Esther Blount, and the other part of my leadership team is John Quint, who's our secretary and been secretary for a long time. This is the co-naming of North Portland between Myrtle and Park Avenue in recognition of Edward Carter. I don't know if Edward Carter, who died 11 years ago, was a longtime member of Community Board 2. He was well known among us as being a person who had strong feelings, who we listened to intently many a night, and we enjoyed hearing him speak, in fact. And frankly, I'm amazed that it's been 11 years. Mr. Carter was the founder and executive director of the Fort Greene Youth Patrol. He was a founding board member of the Brooklyn Navy Yard. He served over 20 years on Community Board 2, and he was a chair of a number of the committees. He was a founder and vice chair of the Fort Greene Senior Citizen Council. He served as chairman of the Veterans Association Civic Affairs Committee. He founded the Fort Greene Memorial Post of the American Legion. He was founder and board chair of the Wonderland Daycare. He was president of the Walt Whitman Tennis Association for a significant period of time. He was president of the Resident Advisory Council for the New York City Public Housing. He was executive member of the board of the Cumberland Diagnostic and Treatment Center, and served for 26 years as the Selected Service Board number 145 in Brooklyn. He was vice president of the Black Cowboys for more than 25 years. The committee spent significant amount of time on this, and we voted unanimously to approve the co-naming, and I presented to the board for its approval.
Thank you, Sid. Thank you. So I'll entertain a motion to accept the committee's recommendation. Motion by Ms. Fibers, second by Ms. Peterson. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand electronically. Okay, take your hand down, please. Mr. Quinn, I need you to take your hand down for me. Perfect. Anyone opposed? Please raise your hand. Anyone abstaining? Thank you. Motion carries. Oh, I'm sorry. Rachel, you abstaining?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, no problem. So we have one abstention. Motion carries. Thank you. Next on the item on the agenda, we have committees to report. First committee is Economic Development and Employment.
Okay, thank you, Chair Singletary. I'm Bill Flournoy, Chair of the Economic Development and Employment Committee. My Vice Chair is Denise Peterson, and my Secretary is Catherine Gilman. We had 3 presentations yesterday. The first presentation was by Atlantic Avenue Business Improvement District, and is for the open street on Hoyt Street between between Atlantic and State. We had a discussion about it very quickly. The One issue was the movement of the safety lane. The safety lane previously was along the residents, and unfortunately, because the residents were parking in the safety lane, it was causing an issue because unfortunately, no emergency vehicles could travel without cars parked in that area. So they moved the safety lane over to the bike lane and then moved the chairs and tables closer to the residents, thereby no longer allowing anyone to park on that side of the street. We had a discussion very quickly. There are no other issues. Cesaride does have access, and Grand Army will be the restaurant that actually will allow individuals to cars to pass through. They took responsibility for that. So that was no other action was taken on that. The next item on the agenda was the Dumbo Improvement District. That discussion was about the Washington Open Streets, okay, in Dumbo. We had a lengthy discussion about that. We had that discussion with the individuals, both the business, the Dumbo Improvement District, Washington stakeholders, and also DOT. We listened to all the different sides of the issue. We also mentioned that some of the other issues were addressed. And for the most part, the committee just had a long discussion, and afterwards we will be coming back to the board with a decision for movement. The next thing that we saw was Ridgewood Bank, Savings Bank. They were looking for a banking development district. That was laid over because unfortunately there was some information that was not presented. So we asked them to come back in April. And that's been my report.
Thank you, Bill. Next, Barbara.
Thank you, Chair Singletary. I just had a question, Mr. Roy. When you mentioned that the Grand Army restaurant, are they agreeing like to take a barrier
yes.
off if someone needs to?
Yes, they would be moving the barriers in the event that anyone needs, any vehicles need to go down the Hoyt Street.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Next committee's report, Finance and Personnel.
Thank you, Chair Singletary. My name is Leonard Jordan. I'm the chair of the Finance and Personnel Committee, and vice chair is Mr. Brandon Smith. Our last meeting was January 26th, and I'd already reported on that. Our next meeting is going to be March the 23rd. We did not meet in February, so we don't have any report, Chair Singletary.
Thank you. Next committee to present, Parks and Recreation.
Thank you, Chair Singletary. Good evening. I'm Barbara Zoloff-Ringer. My co-chair is Andrew Lastawecki, and our wonderful note taker is Thomas H. We had an incredible meeting on February 13th. We started a dialogue talking about climate change in parks. We had three presenters, Michelle Mueller Gamaz, who's the manager of climate change research at the Central Park Conservancy. She told us about the Central Park Climate Lab, which measures the impacts of climate change on New York City parks. Climate change, Michelle told us, is a real threat to New York City because it's leading to flooded landscapes, increased prevalence of invasive species, damage to infrastructure, increased pests and pathogens, loss of biodiversity, and an overall loss of ecological and social benefits. We need to protect the parks in the face of this climate change. And I will say that the overall arching, if you distill what we heard at our meeting to one word, it is trees, 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 okay? The show talked about planting more trees, also converting lawns to natural areas and acquiring land and protecting it. As you know, it's always a big issue finding the funding to carry out these initiatives. We then heard from Shikara Petaway, who's the senior manager of park projects and programs at the Fort Greene Park Conservancy. She spoke about environmental justice education. There is a project going on at Fort Greene Park called the Green Team, which is getting together a group of students. Their goal is to have at least 50% of those students from the neighboring Farragut, Whitman, and Ingersoll NYCHA developments. And they have this time 11 students, and they had over 50 students apply for those positions. If you're interested, they'll be doing it again over the summer. These students are learning about ways to mitigate and potentially resolve the environmental harms and public health risks for Green. Their project is going to end, their term is going to end in a project for the park. And we hope to hear more about that. One of the other purposes of this project is to expose young people to the variety of different jobs there are in the environmental area. And it sounds like a terrific program, and we're eager to hear more about it. Finally, we heard from Hannah Hempel, who's the program analyst at the city's program at Nature Conservancy. She spoke about two programs that they're involved in: Forest for All New York City and New York City Urban Forest Agenda. And they are very much involved in the Million More Trees initiatives, and assured us that all 5 borough presidents have endorsed this project. And Hannah again spoke about the benefits of the urban forest, trees that are both in our parks and on our streets, and how they help to store carbon, cool the air, reduce mental stress, lower blood pressure, and provide community cohesion. So their goal is to achieve a 30% tree canopy cover by 2035. They assured us that our community board district is in pretty good shape when it comes to trees, and I think they advocate for increased tree planting and maintenance funding for that. So I think that the message is really love a tree. So our next meeting is scheduled for Monday, March 20th. So stay tuned.
Thank you, Barbara. Next committee's report, the Youth Education and Cultural Affairs.
Thank you, Chair Singletary. Good evening, everyone. We met last month. We heard from the Summer Youth Employment Program. We're promised that it's going to be a very large and robust and improved program from the past. It will include 14 to 24-year-olds. So in other words, they raise the upper limit so that some of the young people of that age can be involved. There's an aspect that will be supportive to the LGBTQ community, and there will be mental health support for young people through some technology that they're using, as well as in person. There will be more opportunities for young people to have learning experiences in various aspects of the world of work. In the past, most of the opportunities had been in day camps, daycare, childcare, and that type of thing. And while people can still be involved in those types of programs, there's a much broader area of interest because not everyone wants to do childcare. And finally, we don't know yet which agencies or organizations in CB2 will be working on this, but we know that the schools are heavily involved because the young people know about this. They want to be involved in the summer. They want to get paid. So the school guidance counselors are doing recruiting, but the young people want to do it. So it's not going to be a problem to fill up the spots. And the other thing we touched on in our committee was the issue of chronic absenteeism, which prevents young people from learning, from advancing, from graduating, et cetera, if they're absent, one of the points is that if you're absent more than 1 day a month, that leads to chronic absent. That is considered chronic absenteeism, and since COVID, this is much more of a challenge, and some educators and attendance people will be coming to our next meeting to explain further about this issue and help us all come up with ideas to support attendance outreach and incentives and so on. So I urge people to come. We're the fourth Wednesday of the month. So thank you.
Thank you, Betty. Thank you for the update. Next item on our agenda is other board business. I'm not aware of any items coming before us this evening, but if anyone has something they'd like to share now as members of the community board, this would be a good time. First, I'll call on Mr. Meyer.
Yeah, the one thing that I have is last year, as you know, the Transportation Committee spent a considerable amount of time on Washington Avenue. And I'm pleased to announce that the Department of Transportation, in their most recent announcement on open streets, has accepted the recommendation we made to change the from a 24-hour open street to an 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. open street. So that the Department of Transportation did follow our recommendation. You can see here, this is the a change that they made. Here's the open streets, and it shows the announcement, and somewhere on there is the the Willoughby Avenue, the Willoughby Avenue, Washington, was reduced from 24 hours for 7 blocks, and hopefully I'm that it was something that they've announced and it would be very helpful. So they continue to review the open streets. If you have comments, you can make them to DOT. But this is the change that DOT approved for Willoughby Avenue.
Thank you, Sid. And thank you to everyone on Community Board 2 for being consistent and persistent in the way that we advocated for a little bit of equality for the way that street was being implemented. Again, everyone may not be happy, but Community Board 2 did its job to be a voice on behalf of the constituents. Next, I'll call on Barbara. Barbara, you're on mute.
Thank you, Chair Singletary. Again, I forgot to mention that this Saturday is making at the Brooklyn Botanic Garden. The focus is going to be on trees. So if you're interested, if you just go to the Botanic Gardens website, I think you can probably still sign up for it. It's a kind of free-flowing program. There'll be lectures, tours, and anyone who's interested in trees, looking forward to seeing you there. Thanks.
Bill?
Thank you, Chair Singletary. I just want to let people become aware of the fact that a 5G telecommunication pole is going to be actually put in position on Livingston Street between Hoyt Street and Elm Place. The announcement was made recently, and there's still some time to comment. Okay, but that 5G pole will be actually put in place and be managed there. So I just want to make people aware of that.
Esther?
Oh, good evening. I just wanted to note that we was told tonight that Montague Street, 200 Montague Street had affordable housing. And if Tanya could put it up, the building has 38 units. Guess how many are affordable? Starting with a $54,000 salary, 1. So 1, look at the chart. Every time they say affordable, it's not affordable. I got people in my house that don't make 54,000. So, you know, I mean, it's one, and it's a studio apartment. Can you bring it down, Tank? I just want you to be aware that when they say affordable for who? It's starting out with 54. That might sound good, but then when you go to the chart, it's one unit, either for one person or two people. Keep going down, can you please? Right there on the top one, studio, one unit, 54, one person, or you can have two people in the studio making 54. Everything else go up from there. It goes all the way up, up, up. Just wanted you to be aware of that. 38 units, one affordable. That's it.
Thank you. Again, this bears more advocacy on our part and possibly some larger discussions around formula for AMI and what's being considered, how we define average median income. And, you know, we've taken different shots at this. We know that this is a challenge. We know that that process is skewed. And I'm not going to deliberate that tonight, but we will definitely make this an agenda item that requires our advocacy. Ms. Richardson?
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to let everyone know that the New York chapter of the American Institute for Architects is having a panel discussion regarding the BQE, really discussing the larger context because the current plan really only focuses on a short-term rebuilding of the city control portion of the BQE. And that's going to be on March 14th. There is a fee for this. I'm not going to announce the fee because I think we don't do that, but there's a small fee to attend online, and there's also a very reasonable fee to attend in person. So anyone who's interested maybe could just let me know and I can forward them their email. Thank you.
All right, so Yvette, before we let you go, two things. You say contact you. I don't know if everybody has your info. So let's to respect your email from being cluttered. How about we do this? If you would reach out to Taya sometime, let Taya distribute that in a way that has a little bit more protections against your information being shared. And then we can go through that process.
Yep. However, we need to get the information out. I'm willing to play ball. Thank you.
Absolutely. If I could just ask everyone, when you're finished with your comments, please take your hand down. Next, I'm going to call on Emily Onadu.
Thank you, Chair Singletary. Thank you to Mr. Flanoy for bringing up the issue of 5G. This is the third community board meeting where I've heard 5G come up. It typically comes up, it feels like it now comes up almost, well, at least it's come up the last two or so HES committee meetings. It seems like an issue that's potentially going to keep coming up, and so I don't know if it makes sense at some point to actually just take some time, whether it's and maybe Chair Brandon Smith for the HES committee, it could be part of that. It just strikes me that there's a lot of strong feelings around it. There's a lot of real information, misinformation, lots of things going on. And again, just because it keeps coming up, it feels like it's worth having, people come in, like scientists come in and explaining the technology.
So that's a great point. Taya, when you tomorrow, when you get a chance, let's you and I touch base. Let's get an invitation to have a speaker from either Do It or someone from the mayor's office to see if they can provide some context so that we can have an agenda item, have that fleshed out and discussed in greater detail at the HES committee. And then depending on the type of response we get, maybe we make this another information session. So thank you, Emily, for highlighting that. And Tay and I work together to see if we can get a better solution and disseminate more information around that process.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Firebush?
Yeah, thank you so much. March 27th, the Brooklyn SWAB, the Solid Waste Advisory Board, will be meeting with people from community boards. So Taya will have the invitation and the Zoom link. And it's beyond just hearing what we all in our communities think are the most important challenges, but we will have the Borough President, Reynoso, will be at this roundtable, as well as representatives from high-level representatives from DSNY and perhaps other agencies that are related with the waste issues. So I urge people to come. I know that there's been good representation from CB2 before, so let's keep up the good work to advocate around our waste situation. Thank you.
Denise?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Chairperson Singletary. I just wanted to make 2 quick comments. When I heard Esther speak about affordability, you know, we have been dealing with this issue for a long time, and we continue to, and probably have to keep our eyes on that issue. But I want to say, in addition to the occupancy part, we also, I would like for us to also try to be greater advocates and get those who want to partner with us in terms of people being able to get work. There's so many maintenance positions that doesn't require you to have a law degree or a master's degree, that the people in the surrounding communities that continue to seem to be left out oftentimes on most levels as it relates to all of this development and construction, that, you know, we can sort of scream a little louder with some others that, you know, can a brother get a job in some of these buildings? And I'm not sure that there's any statistics that shows us who's being hired to work at these various 50-story buildings, but I'm hoping that we can learn more about that. And if it doesn't seem to be adequate, that we can certainly, you know, advocate for more. I want to also continue to say, based on the meeting that was held yesterday, the Economic Development and Employment Committee, that in the matter of, you know, all issues, you know, be it open streets, parks, that organizations and teams are picking up and having conversation, that we continue to maybe forget that there's other people in the neighboring communities that we should invite. We can only say that they didn't come, but we can't say that they came or didn't show up for the meeting because they may not have been invited or even know about some of the little, you know, community group meetings that take place. So we need to, you know, continue to work, you know, in that way to make sure that everybody knows and can come and talk about something if they wish to do so. And so, thank you.
So now we're going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is community forum. This is where non-community board members have a platform to bring an issue or maybe make a comment. We ask that you keep your comments limited to 2 minutes. And so the first person that we're going to call on is Councilmember Lincoln Restler.
I don't know how I snuck into the community forum session, but I'm very happy to be here.
Your timing was perfect. We'll make an exception. We won't hold you to the 2-minute rule.
Well, I'll try not to blabber on for too long, but I just want to firstly thank you, Chair Singletary, for your great leadership. And I really want to thank Bill and Taya, who did a great job at last night's long meeting on open streets. And I think continued to demonstrate that CB2 does, I think, an unparalleled job of bringing folks together of diverse opinions and hashing out the issues and airing out the facts and I really appreciate the work of this board. And it's, I just thought you guys did a great job last night, and my staff and I were very appreciative, and we certainly appreciate the recommendations that you all make. Just a few quick updates, building on Barbara's presentation. We have been laser focused in District 33 on expanding our tree canopy. We launched last year at this point. We're planting 3,400 new trees in every available tree bed in District 33, but we're also really focused on improving the health of our street trees. And so this past Saturday out in Borough Hill, we had over 40 neighbors cleaning out trash from our tree beds, cultivating the soil, putting out processed compost and mulch. We improved the health of 120 street trees in Borough Hill. I want to thank the Borough Hill Association for their partnership on that. We've got events coming up in Brooklyn Heights on May 7th, in Dumbo on June 3rd. We're doing a thing with MS 915, our local middle school in downtown Brooklyn, later this week. I guess that's on Friday, where we're going to do some street tree care events in downtown Brooklyn. We really want to encourage everyone to get involved. And one new thing that we're going to be rolling out later this month that I'm really excited about is an online tool where you can take responsibility for stewarding the tree on your block, where we'll look to have neighbors and small businesses take responsibility for the tree in front of their house, and we'll give advice on how much it needs to be watered and what kind of care needs to be done to make sure that we keep each and every tree in our community healthy. And it's not just because they're beautiful and they bring shade. We lose more people in climate-related deaths from heat than anything else. And trees are really nature's solution to the climate crisis and addressing the urban heat island index, stormwater runoff, air quality, and so much more. So that's why we've been laser focused on expanding tree canopy on every block in every neighborhood across District 33. A couple other quick things I just wanted to highlight. One is a new initiative that we've just launched that we're calling Friends of MTA Stations. It's a pilot that we're doing with the MTA. We picked 5 stations in our district. Just like we got friends groups at our libraries and friends groups in our parks and PTAs in our schools, this is a strategy to bring neighbors together, to do walkthroughs of our train stations, allow for the people who use the station every day to share their back to the MTA for how do we improve lighting, how do we improve cleaning, how do we, if there's a concentration of homeless individuals, how do we get more help and support to those folks? How do we do more to make our stations better? And the MTA feels like the most unaccountable agency in the entire state of New York. And we're hoping that we can we're going to have community board reps, if you're willing, in every one of these station groups. The 3 in CB2 are at High Street, at Borough Hall, and at J Street. So we'd love to work in partnership with you all on that. If other people want to apply, we would love it. We've got applications going through next week, so please let us know. Just quickly on solar legislation we just introduced, and then I'll do a moment on the BQE. We introduced solar legislation last week that would expand the installation of solar on rooftops by reducing the walkways that are required around solar installations and allowing for neighboring buildings to apply together on solar applications to expand the footprint that we can use, that we can fill on our buildings with more solar. We have really quite generous city, state, and federal tax incentives, property tax abatements, if you install solar. Obstacles, have been so great that it's disincentivized too many homeowners from actually doing it. And so, for brownstones right now, there's basically, you're required to have a 6-foot path around a solar installation on a roof. It means you're only putting a small amount of solar on your roof. Our legislation would bring that down to 3 feet for smaller buildings around our district. And then lastly, just on the BQE, which I know is top of mind for a lot of folks in the community, we've been meeting, myself, Assemblymember Simon, Senator Gounardes, and Congress members Goldman and Velázquez have been meeting together almost every week, meeting with DOT and City Hall almost as frequently. And we're trying our best to push for answers. We've been laser focused on trying to maintain 2 lanes of traffic on the triple cantilever and pushing the city to to pursue strategies to cap or tunnel as much of the structure as it goes through the triple cantilever portion as possible. And we've been pushing for the city to think about, and the state to think about the whole BQE corridor, not just Brooklyn Heights. And so we've begun meeting with elected officials who represent the BQE from Southern Brooklyn to the tip of Greenpoint. 17 elected officials all signed a letter in support of 2 lanes, not 3 lanes, at the triple cantilever. And so we're building a broad coalition there. Unfortunately, the mayor's team decided to host a meeting last week at City Hall with Brooklyn Democratic Party reps and, you know, others to try to, I think, push against a 2-lane solution, unfortunately. But we're laser focused on that as part of the goal of this project ultimately. What I think there are a lot of open questions here. The construction phasing is unclear. The impacts to Brooklyn Bridge Park are totally unclear. Impacts to the Brooklyn Heights neighborhood are unclear, including, you know, what impact, you know, the modifying the retaining wall would have for the homes along the triple cantilever. So there are many open questions, and this one is very much a marathon, not a sprint. But we are laser focused on trying to get as much information as we can for the community. And if there are any ways in which we can be helpful, please let us know. You know, most of all, I just want to thank CB2 for their great partnership. We have got a lot of great applications to CB2 this year. I have to say, I think it's our best batch of applications that I've certainly seen of any of the community boards are to CB2. So Lenny, I'm going to need your help on that, and look forward to chatting with you soon. And if there's anything we can do to help in our office, don't hesitate to let us know. And it's great to be with you as always.
Thank you, Councilmember. And I do want to say thank you in a different way, because you go out your way to really make sure that no matter what's on your schedule, you show up in person. That's not unnoticed. I appreciate that. I really do. And I think the board members well, so thank you.
I'm live from the Brooklyn Heights Association annual meeting. So we got a good crowd here tonight.
Well, best of luck. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great night. It's always good to see you.
Same here.
Be well.
So we thank you, Councilmember, for participating. Now I'm going to go back to the community forum, and I'm going to first person I'm going to call is I see many representatives for Friends of South Oxford Park, but I think I'm going to start with a call on Dwayne. So Dwayne, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chairperson Singletary and CB2. Thank you for having us. I am Dwayne Broadnax. I'm the chair of the Friends of South Oxford Park, also known as FOSOP. And we're here today. I think most of my board members are here, and we're here to advocate for South Oxford Park to put it back into its original format of being a no-dog park. We were part of the architects in the conversation when it was first built in 2004, and it was designed to be a no-dog park because of the turf. Since then, thank you very much. You know, with more dogs in the neighborhood, they made a decision to make it a dog-friendly park. But we feel that with all the other neighboring parks that are allowing dogs, that we should keep this particular small, beautiful park a no-dog park, and hopefully we can grandfather in its original format. And also they changed the time in the park. We open and close the park every single day since its inception 18 years ago. And it always opened from dusk to dawn, 7 to nightfall, which changes from season to season. But they've changed the rules now to 6 to 10. So we're sort of trying to advocate to get it back to its original ruling. I spoke with Commissioner Marr the other day, and he said that we have to go through Community Board 2, CB2, to present these issues and see what their findings are or what their decisions may be. So again, we're just here to advocate that it remains a no-dog park. You know, we have nothing against dogs and dog owners. We love dogs. It's just that it is a very beautiful park. The turf as it is not clean as it should be. But, we have a lot of toddlers that just roll through the turf and they learn to walk there. And as you know, if something is done on the turf through a dog, it stays there forever until it's clean. So we would like to try to keep it as a no dog park. Currently, they have it so dogs are allowed there, but on a leash. But we know that, not everyone abides by those rules. And even it being a no dog park, we were always challenged to just remind people who brought dogs in that it's a no dog park. And we're not the police. We just simply remind them of the rule. And if they are not compliant, then we leave it alone. But most people, tend to listen and leave with the dogs. But if the dogs are in the park and they are allowed to be in the park, we feel that they will be unleashed and they will run over the turf as they have started doing already. This ruling has just gone into effect 2 weeks ago. So we're trying to change it to make it back into a no dog park, make it so that its original hours of operation are from 7 a.m. to dusk. So that is what we are hoping for and advocating for. Thank you for your time.
So thank you for participating in tonight's meeting and actually staying through to the end to raise this concern. What I'm going to ask, if you've not already done so, is to send a formal request. It would be helpful if you have stationery to have it on stationery. Send it to the board office, and then we'll work with you offline to see how we can get a better understanding of how we can work towards a solution. Let's look at what the alternatives are. And if we need to help with facilitating a broader conversation with the local councilmatic person, along with representatives in the Parks Department, we're willing to do so. So if you can send that to us as soon as possible, we'll begin to start doing the work with you on that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, I'm going to call on Cynthia McKnight, representing Community Education Council 13.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm the president and Brooklyn Borough President appointee for CEC 13 Community Education Council, and I'm joined with my first vice president, Ben Green. I'm just going to make a few brief announcements because it is already 7:43. First, we'd like to welcome the community. You're welcome to join us on Saturday, March 18th for a community wellness event. We'll do restorative justice, learn about self-care practices. A lot of parents, teachers are under a lot of stress, and students, and the CEC is doing it at Makata, and we're very grateful for them to donate their space for us to use. We also have the District 13 Residency in Childhood General Education and Special Education that just came out. It starts this summer, and it allows college students to learn practices where they can be effective with equity and great educators. They get a stipend, and at the end of the 2-year program, they could become teachers in District 13. We have our next CEC meeting on March 21st, and with President's Council, we welcome you. And then April 18th, we're having a housing town hall to address a lot of the housing issues that you were talking about today. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other hands raised, I want to make one final comment before I entertain a motion to adjourn. I say this oftentimes with a little bit of tongue-in-cheek and humor, but oftentimes, almost all times, I am as serious as I could be about how proud I am to be a member of Community Board 2, how proud I am that you all have elected me to serve as chair of Community Board 2. But on International Women's Day, I want everyone to take the time to, and let me be clear about this, not to stalk, not to go overboard, not to do anything that is improper. But on International Women's Day, you should recognize some of the talented women we have that serve with us on Community Board 2. Now, I'm not going to put everyone on the spot, but we have some very talented, accomplished women that serve on Community Board 2. And what I am going to do before I make a motion to adjourn is that I want to call out on this day to highlight and celebrate and thank each of you for your leadership. We'll start with our district manager, Taya. I'm going to start with our secretary, Jessica. I'm going to continue with our second vice chair, Barbara, our chair of youth education and cultural affairs, Betty, the co-chair for HES, Nicole, co-chair for transportation, Esther, co-chair for land use, Daughtry, and a co-chair for youth education, I'm sorry, not youth, for employment, job creation, and just the consistent advocate, Denise. When you think about that, I don't know, and I don't really care what any other community board does, but I'm proud to have each of the individuals I call be recognized as leaders within Community Board 2, people who have worked with me as colleagues, doing work for the board in the community on behalf of the constituents we have. I'm proud to have you all listed as leaders amongst Community Board 2. And again, not in a stalker mode, but you should really inquire about the individuals who serve on Community Board 2, who I didn't call, who are extremely accomplished. So happy International Women's Day to all. Thank you all for your continued service. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn, and good night.
Thanks,
Good
Lenny.
night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Lenny, thank you.